Willie D Live.
What's up, family? Well, what do we have here? An end to the shutdown. Yeah, family, the Republicans caved. Now, everyday hardworking Americans will be able to feed their families. I ain't got no problem with that. Reason being that these shutdowns don't hurt politicians first. They hurt everyday hardworking Americans. So I want y'all to check out this article in the Federal News Network. So here we go. Republican leaders in Congress announce plan to ending Homeland Security shutdown. House Speaker Mike Johnson and Senate Majority Leader John Thune announced a plan Wednesday to fully fund the Department of Homeland Security, moving past a split between the two Republican leaders that resulted in Congress leaving Washington last week without a fix to a record-setting partial government shutdown. They said in a joint statement that in the coming days, Republicans in Congress will return to a Senate plan to fund most of the department through an agreement with the Democrat senators, with the exception of U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement and U.S. Border Patrol. Republicans would then try to fund those agencies through party line spending legislation. Neither outcome is guaranteed, and the strategy could potentially face opposition from the GOP's own ranks, even though President Donald Trump has given his support. We can stop right there. So, the Democrats finally got something to go their way. Good Lord. It took an actual act of Congress. Absolutely incredible. Here's the thing, fam. First of all, I'm glad that they reopened the government. Number one, fam, man, people out here hurting. It's one thing if you ain't got no money because you ain't worked. It's a different thing when you're actually working and you're not being paid. So this reopening stabilizes the country to an extent. And we're not out of the woods because you still got Donald Trump as president. So, but it stabilizes the country to an extent. At the very least, the people expect the government to be open, right? Like, all right, man, we know y'all a bunch of incompetent fools, but at the very least, the damn government should be open, right? Shutdowns don't just hurt politicians, but they don't hurt politicians, especially in the beginning, but they don't hurt politicians first. They can hurt them, but not necessarily their pockets. Shutdowns have to do more with hurting their chances of re-election. But it ain't gonna hurt their pockets because they're writing the laws and they are passing the laws. They are executing the laws. Family, they got the game rigged and they don't have term limits. So they can sit up in the office for 40, 50 years doing nothing but padding their pockets. But federal workers miss paychecks. Airports slow down. Small businesses that rely on government contracts get squeezed. So keeping the government open avoids unnecessary disruption. It protects the economy at a fragile moment. Like, we're pretty much in a recession right now. So even the shortest shutdown can shake the confidence. Look at how it's doing the markets for those of you who invest in the stock market. Those of you who do cryptocurrency, like me, it causes a lot of uncertainty. It makes people hold what they have and wait and see. And when that happens, the economy is just begging for a recession. So at the very least, keeping the government open keeps essential services running, you know. So we got the veterans benefits. They get people get their food. People can get food because, you know, the SNAP benefits, you know, being paid out. You got all of these systems, these government systems that people depend on. I mean, the government is the biggest employee, you know, in the country. So, and this signals basic government competence. When the government shuts down, the people are wondering, like, what the hell? How the hell does the government shut down? So what are we supposed to? So when the government shuts down, does that mean that there's now no law? We get to do what? No, they ain't gonna do that. They're not gonna stop paying the police officers, because even though you're more unsafe than you've ever been in your life, you still got to pay those police officers, because you got to think. They got to make you think that you're safe, even though you're not safe. For those of you who think you're safe, watch this. You know how many people in this country have been in their homes and some uncivilized mutt came through the doors and killed them? You know how many people who have been hiking, who thought they were safe, and then they were knocked off? People just driving down the street, somebody shooting, people getting mugged, people walking to the car, leaving the mall. It could be an upscale mall. Get, you know, in the store get robbed. It's all kinds of ways, right? So none of us are really safe, but there is an illusion that we're safe, and that illusion keeps police officers paid. Now, I don't think that police officers should not get paid if they're really working, the good ones. But it's too many of them out there who don't really do anything, and they're not good. They're not good for the communities. They're not good for America. But America has this heavy hand when it comes to law enforcement, and I don't know why they think that is a good idea for the overall health of Americans, but I guess I do know the answer. They don't really care about the overall health of Americans. They don't care if we're stressed out. They don't care if we're on the edge. They don't care if we're popping antidepressants and all. They don't care about none of that stuff, because all of that stuff pay their bills. We go to early grade, man, that's more money for them. You know, so basically what I'm trying to say, fam, is we're on our own. We're absolutely on our own. But damn, finally the Democrats did something. They finally got something. And they could have gotten what they wanted in the previous shutdown. But they folded like the last, I think it was like within the last, in the 11th hour, they folded. They were like 48 hours away or so from getting what they wanted. And they folded, which makes me believe that they're working together. We know John Fetterman is working with the Republicans. He's a Democrat. We know for a fact that he's working with the Republicans because he votes in the Republicans' best interest time and time again. But look at that, man. The Democrats finally held the line, stood on business. Absolutely amazing. I ain't gonna lie though, fam. When I see the Democrats get a W on something, I'm more like, that was luck. You know what I'm saying? Because I just don't believe, because they don't know how to keep winning. They don't know how to keep their foot on the gas. You know, they get too relaxed. They be thinking, okay, we're cruising, we're home free, we got them. They don't know how to keep the foot on the gas, keep their foot on their necks. You know, they don't know how to do that. They don't know how to just keep on plowing away at what they want. They don't know how to keep, as soon as they get what they want, they relax and they think it's over. Meanwhile, the Republicans are over here. Republicans have spent 20 years, 30 years chipping away at certain gains that Democrats have made. They're chipping away at that law. they're working before they finally get it reversed. They never give up. I can't say that about the Democrats. I just can't say that about them, I'm not bragging on the Republicans because, many of them are uncivilized mutts and they got an uncivilized mutt leader. So I'm not bragging on them by any means. So don't get it twisted. Don't get it twisted. I'm not bragging on them. I'm just saying I'd like to see a little bit more, from the other side, kind of like watching a boxing match. When you're watching a boxing match, even if you don't know the combatants, you want to see a good fight, right? Yeah, that's all I'm saying, fam. I want to see a good fight. No more talk.